You're listening to the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about how we game.
Welcome to the Beans and Dice podcast. In today's episode, we're going to give you our Dice Tower East 2022 recap and share some experiences of how it went from Orlando, Florida, the Caribe Royale Dice Tower East convention, back for the first time since 2019. So I'm going to go to the person who's always first to show up, first to make the call, to talk about his experience, because he was there Tuesday, even before the con opened. Mitchell, open us up with your experience for Dice Tower East Tuesday.
Yeah, well, I didn't have the luxury of just driving a couple hours down the road. I had to fly in, and so I didn't want to be getting there too late on day one of the con, so I flew in on Tuesday. And honestly, by that point, I was already late to the game. BJ had been there since Saturday gaming, day like -3. So, I mean, I get there, I check into the hotel, I hit up BJ. He said, hey, man, come down to the lobby. Because I'd gone into the main hall to get my badge, and it was dead because the open gaming wasn't open. And so I go to the lobby, and it is popping. Mahir Shah, co-designer of Viticulture World, is down there gaming. BJ of Board Game Gumbo. And we started playing a bunch of games. Just to highlight one of them, I played a game called Paris, which is a tile-laying game, which, as you know, I don't like those. But it's interesting. Have you guys seen this one at all, Paris?
No,
yes,
I haven't.
Robert, I think you've played it, Rob.
Yeah, I played it. Yeah, I played it with
Okay.
Dan over at the Your Turn.
It was interesting because the second part of the game is your regular old tile laying. It's only a 2-player game, so you can only place tiles on your color, or there's a neutral color that's shared. That's not the unique part. Well, the cool part is the first half of the game, you are drafting and placing tiles to create the board. So you're setting yourself up for later in the game being able to place tiles. And if you mess up the first half of the game, then you may be screwed in the second half of the game. And it was a cool twist on tile laying that actually kind of endeared me to it a little bit whenever usually I don't like tile laying. I didn't know you had played it, Rob. Did you enjoy it?
I did. We played it right after it came out, so it's been a bit since I played it. It's been, I think, a couple of years. So I don't remember all the details, but I do remember you specifically when you said about setting up in the beginning. We were teaching ourselves and kind of playing through from the rule book. And when we got into that second half of the game, it was like, oh, well, we probably should have done that so that we could set that up so that we could do that. And I remember that being a big part of it. But yeah, it's a real nice table presence game when you get it all set up. The arch, the L'Arc de Triomphe in the middle of the board is it's one of those pieces. Thank you. Yeah, one of those pieces that looks better than is actually functionally good, because I know we kind of set that up and then immediately took it down because it blocks being able to see over to the other part of the board. But
I don't even think we even use the standees. We just use the tile itself. But what's cool is it uses the game box as the way to create the board. It's got kind of like a little recessed area in the bottom of the box, and then you just fit the tiles inside the lip so they're nice and tight. It was very, you know how Dice Tower does like the most innovative game thing? It definitely, there was some innovation in the design of that game, in the production of the game, I guess.
Nice looking game. Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I played some other games that night, but I played a total of almost 50 unique games over the con. So I'll leave it at that. I think that was the standout one for night 0 or night.
I mean, you can tell us some of the games.
Okay, so I played Bad Company.
Okay, we
kind
played
of like
that.
a space-based, but gangster themed, and also adding a race component.
Touch on it while you're here. So that versus Space Base, what's your thought?
I think I like it better than Space Base because it's kind of like Fantasy Realms versus Red Rising. So Fantasy Realms kind of laid the foundation, and Red Rising added on top of it. And I feel like that's what it did. Like a Machikoro or a Space Base, where you're rolling dice, somebody rolls the dice, and then you choose if you want this one and this one or both of these. But here, it's like you're creating a gang. And what's cool, the art is whenever you're upgrading a number, you're actually changing the top half of your character. So it's kind of funny seeing what they become. But at the same time, you're also trying to move along this road and outrun the police.
Right.
So it was very thematic.
That's what I was saying. It was like a little story. That's what I liked, is there was several different things going on. There was a couple different boards, and you were choosing to move things on this board or that board or add a character. And there was more going on. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think I like it better than Space Base.
And I'll just say I disagree. I went back to Space Base, and I don't think I'll go back to Bad Company.
Really? Okay.
Fair enough.
Is that one out in the wild yet?
It is. Yeah.
It's not widely available in America. I've
Still,
heard.
that's what I felt.
BJ had to go through all kind
okay,
of
bring
crazy
it in.
stuff he said to get it, I believe.
Gotcha.
I also played Long Shot the Dice game, which I know we all played a big game of later that
Yep.
week. Maybe we could talk about it then. I played Yokohama for the first time, which is like Istanbul on steroids. It's a worker placement game where like you have to be able to chart a path from one action to the next. I liked it a lot. The teach was a little bit lengthy, but the game played pretty smoothly. And then Marvel Dice Throne, which I know Rob played with me as well, again, a couple days later. Same Dice Throne, except themed with Marvel, so that's a plus for me. I like Dice Throne, and if you give me characters I care about, I like it even more.
That sounds like a hot pre-con day of gaming.
Mm-hmm. Rob, you weren't as hot on Marvel Dice Throne, right?
Not so much. I had played Dice Throne, I think, twice before that, and you know me and dice games. They're usually not my favorite, but it was fun. It's well balanced, I'll say that. I know that one night we played, we had three different games of it going on, 2 against 2 against 2, and if I remember, all three of them came down to just a couple of points, hit points one way or the other at the end. So it's really well balanced.
Yep, that was Diego's copy. He had just gotten it's all blinked out and everything. So thanks for letting us play that, Diego.
Yep, for sure. And then, so you and Ron both came in on Tuesday, is that right?
Yeah, Ron was the one who taught me Long Shot the dice game that night, and then
Ron
I wasn't
Fraser,
able to get another game in with him because we just kind of got offset. Like I would be starting a game right like 10 minutes after he finished one, that kind of thing. So that was the only one we played together.
Cool. Y'all room together, so we'll touch on that. That y'all so nicely let me crash at you in your room the next night. But we'll
that
move
takes
into
us
that.
to Wednesday. So here comes Wednesday. Well, what Tuesday night, Mitch? It's pre-con. I mean, what'd you do for food? Like, how was the setup? Like getting to the hotels, check-in. You flew in, so it's a very different experience. I don't fly places.
Yeah, I mean, I flew in. I took an Uber to Kroger to get some groceries, and then an Uber to the Carib. What I did was I got milk and cereal. That's what I ate for breakfast every morning. I got bread, turkey, and cheese. That's what I ate for lunch every day. So then I only had to spring for one meal a day. And most importantly, I didn't have to stop gaming for more than once a day because I would just grab a sandwich out of my bag.
This is why you and Rob make such good friends.
So, like,
doing it right.
What I'm hearing is that at a con, Mitchell and Rob will go and do their thing, and then Carlos and I will go find the good food and take breaks and have fun and get
bring some back to us. We don't need to leave the table, but we still enjoy good food. But no,
I don't bring back food. If you want to take a break, you come.
Oh,
eat with
come
me.
on!
What was awesome that first night is since we were gaming in the lobby, the way that the Creeb works. I mean, there's lots of different buildings, and the convention center where the con is way in the back, and sometimes the cars have trouble finding you. Well, the lobby is right by the drive-thru. So literally I took my turn. That's whenever we were playing Yokohama. It said your Uber Eats or whatever is driving up. I ran up the stairs outside, grabbed it. I came back. It wasn't even my next turn yet. I chomped down my burrito, Chipotle.
Before you got back to the table.
Pretty much. And I didn't even have to stop gaming. It was awesome.
Nice. Doing it right.
We are not the same.
Yeah, no, I need a nice, at least once a day. I gotta go get a nice meal somewhere.
I don't need like a super nice meal, but I just need a break away from the table just to talk, chat, eat something.
Not doing
That's
it
what
right.
I've done for Dice Tower East, but I lost so much time gaming, always having to go figure out food. So I was like, I ain't doing that again.
Yeah.
No, but you know what though? For you folks that are listening in to get ideas about the con experience, I still have to say the con in New Iberia, in Lafayette, the Southern Board Game Fest, Sobo was awesome because they had these cards on each table. Mitchell invited us to there during spring break last year. They had cards on the table with a phone number and a number, like a letter number of the table, and you put that into the app and tell it what you wanted to eat, and they Ubered that food, or I can't remember the name of the business.
It's called Waiter. It's a local Uber thing. Yeah.
They brought the food to that table. So it's not like you had to go out anywhere. They just walked right into the con to the table you were at and brought you your food. So if anyone is listening, Dice Tower, if y'all are listening, maybe next year, ideas as Wayne would say.
As Wayne would say.
All right, so Wednesday I was supposed to meet up with Rob. We were supposed to get up early, get some breakfast burritos from Mickey D's, and head out. But I'll say I never finished my Tuesday night because we had a sick baby at home who did not go to sleep. So I had no sleep Tuesday night. we had no sleep Monday night. The baby was sick Monday. Baby was still sick with a fever Tuesday. And with the baby not sleeping, my wife and I had a tag team. So I made the decision that I'd be home. I was already on vacation for the whole week. I'd be home with the baby, helping wifey, and then I'd make my way over there Thursday night as long as the family was okay. So I had to send Rob out on his own. Rob, you can chime in and start up on Wednesday experiences for you.
I'll pick it up a little bit there. So I made the trip solo. So good thing is I wasn't too delayed. You gave me a good heads up that the night before that you might not be making it, and so I contacted you that morning and wasn't too surprised that you weren't gonna get in. So but I knew that was all right. Yeah, that was fine. So I made the trip.
I gave you a heads up.
Yeah, from Tampa over to Orlando. I think it ended up being about an hour and a half trip in the morning. That's gonna happen on I-4. Just the traffic going in. Normally it's about an hour trip, but it was a little longer. But anyway, so I get in there. I think we met up pretty quickly, Mitchell. Although the first thing I did, I believe that morning was when I got in, I ran into Diego and his wife Rachel, and I forget who the fourth player was. There was a fourth person there, and we ran into the game area. I had a demo scheduled for, I think it was Gutenberg coming up, but they wanted to try to fit something in real quick. We had about an hour, and I saw Circadians First Light sitting on the shelf, and so we grabbed that out of the library and I took it over, and I was a little on the optimistic side. I said, yeah, I can teach this. We can play this 4-player in an hour, no problem. So of course my teaches, it's no surprise that I'm pretty thorough on my teaches. Carlos gives me a hard time about that, but I want to make sure everybody's got all the information before we start. So I got pretty deep into the teach. The teach lasted probably about 20-25 minutes, and we only got about halfway through the game, but it left a good enough impression. I was told I did a good job teaching, and even just on that half a game playthrough, Diego, when I ran into him a little later that day, told me he'd already gone online and looked it up, and I can't remember, it was either the flea market or something. He had found a copy and had already purchased a copy of it. He really liked it that much, and I got to teach this one to Carlos. This one, I've been saying this for over a year. I think this is going to be right up his alley. Circadian's a real fun little dice worker placement, a dice placement game. You're using your dice to go out on all these little sideboards and do little different tasks. And there's a lot of blocking each other. There's some limited spaces where you can put things. You're fighting over different areas. So I think it's going to be right up his alley. A lot of player interaction and dice. Carlos always likes dice, so that's a good thing.
Yes.
But my next big impression of that was Gutenberg. I think we got to touch on Gutenberg. That was kind of the new hotness. That was probably one of the top 5 hottest games that everybody was buzzing about going into Dice Tower. And I enjoyed Gutenberg quite a bit. I know some others liked, and I'll let the rest of you chime in if you've played it. I know Mitchell has played it a couple times, and I liked it. I didn't absolutely fall in love with it. The second time I played it, I got a chance to play it later that same day. And the second time I played it, I think I liked it better because I had a better idea what was going on and what I was doing. It's not overly complex. I'd say it's maybe one step up from an entry level game. I don't think I'd call it quite a gateway game. There's just enough going on in it that you got to plan ahead a little bit and figure out, I'm going to save this stuff to do this, or I'm going to cash this in to do that over there. So it's probably, what I'd call it one step up. But in any case, it's a good game. It was a fun game. The components in it are really nice. That's something I know that's drawn a lot of attention. People like playing with all the little bits, the little pieces of type and press, but it's got some different mechanics in it. There's a bidding mechanic that goes on. You've got a board, and depending on your player order, you get more or less chits to bid with, and so you're kind of passing around. The person who goes last in the player turn order is going to have more chits to bid on. I think it's 5 or 6 different areas. 5 different areas, okay, that you're trying to bid on whether you're going to go first, second, third, or fourth to take something from that area, or you can even pass and use your bidding chips to do something else. But it's got some neat mechanics, some taking some things. Like I said, there's some collection of some things. There's using resources, trying to resource manage to get points, and it was a fun game. It was an experience, and like I said, I played it twice that day, so I liked it enough definitely to go back to it.
So
just
Carlos knows nothing about the game so far because you haven't mentioned the theme at all. You've only talked about
mechanics, no theme. Mechanics, no theme. No,
you are making a.
I was trying to find a way in my head to nicely say
work into that.
I didn't hear a word you said because I couldn't put. I'm looking at pictures, so I was going to ask Mitchell. Mitchell, can you connect the dots for Wayne and I?
So,
what is Gutenberg?
You're basically saying though, but before all you're saying is the last 5 minutes of Rob was just like peanuts. It was like,
There you go.
Tokens, bidding, 5 areas.
Right.
What am I doing in this game? I keep looking at these pictures.
You are creating a printing press, getting different letters, which are really cool. These little type letters, collecting ink, building up your skills, and ultimately making money by printing things for people. But every order that you have, it will pay you money if you fill it. But if you do it well, like you add the colors that they want and add the kind of script that they want, you're going to get more popular because, hey, not only do they do this job, they do this job well. And those fame points are your victory points. So there are 3 cogs that you can get. It's one of the 5 main actions you can get. You put it on your board, and then it interlocks with the other ones on your board. So whenever you turn it, it makes the other one's turn. And at any point on your turn, as a free action, you can do the action that is highlighted on your cog up to 3 times because you have 3 cogs. Even though that is a really cool part of the game, the heart of the game, in my opinion, and it doesn't look like this, it's the bidding. Because you see what is available to draft on all 5 actions, the cog, the order, the ink, things like that. And if you get it first versus if you get it second can mess up your entire turn. If you need this one thing to fill an order and somebody bid 1 more token than you and they get that, it can mess up your whole turn. So the bidding to me is the most important part of the game and the most fun. Do you agree with that, Rob?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's the real hook of it. There is the secret bidding you're doing. Everybody's revealing together, and then, like I said, that whole thing of the uneven distribution of your chips that you're using to bid. So trying to figure out, hey, if I've got the fewest, I'm going to go first, so I'm going to win all ties if there's a tie. But I've got I think it's 3 fewer than whoever's going last at that point in a 4-player game. So you're really having to think, okay, that person over there's got 3 more chips than I do. Where are they going to put their chips? And, kind of you're doing a lot of looking at other people's boards, trying to figure out where they're going to go and what they're going to go for. So you might be able to steal something cheap in one place so you can bulk up in another. But yeah, it was a good time.
Try, buy, deny. I mean,
I bought it.
I'd say it's probably right on that borderline for me. It's close to a buy. It was definitely fun enough and light enough that I could play it over and over, and I don't think I'd get bored with it. Not the first game I'm pulling off the shelf, but yeah, I'd say it's probably a low end buy for me.
All right, Wayne, I'll wait for you to buy it.
There you go. Add it to the collection.
I would say is like that's that game was not on my list to watch as far as like new games for 2022, 2021, whatever. And I'm interested to see is like when I heard about Gutenberg, I also at the same time heard about Carnegie. And those are 2 games that are coming like
you can't talk about one without the other. It kind of came out together.
Well, it's also, so I'm interested because Carnegie is a little bit more of a complex game. And so I'm interested to see where those 2 kind of finish out in the next couple of months to see which one I pick up.
Well, I can't believe that this game wasn't on your list to watch for because it's got your art cover style written all over it. Old European white guys on a cover, poorly drawn.
Did you look at the cover of Carnegie? It looks it's even worse.
It's on your list as well.
It's crazy because we all talked about wanting to play Carnegie. I don't think any of us played it.
Yeah, we didn't.
I even messaged you guys.
The hot table was taken.
You guys play Carnegie while you're there, and none of you ended up playing it.
Yeah, and Tom mentioned in his recap that there was a copy on the hot table that was constantly full, and then there was I didn't even realize there was a copy in the library. He said that was one of the most checked out games. So he said
Gutenberg?
of
Carnegie.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he said that was one of the most played games by far.
I was hot on Gutenberg ever since they talked about it in that Portal Games magazine they started putting out, the digital one.
I remember you brought that up on the show.
Yeah, and I ended up buying it. Well, okay, the cost that it was at the con, I actually got it from their website with shipping for like $2.50 cheaper online, and I didn't have to stuff it into my bag.
Wow.
And then I didn't realize they were giving out a promo. So I went up to Agnostic. I was like, hey, I just bought this online because I didn't have room in my bag. He's like, oh, we'll get a promo. It's fine. So he's a really cool guy.
There's Mitchell just name dropping again, all the designer friends that he has.
Hey, he told me he wanted to hire me to teach games. I don't know if Rob was there, or maybe it was the next day.
It might have been the next day. I didn't hear that.
No, he said, this is a really good demo when you're there. And then I taught it to somebody else the next day. He said, I should hire you to teach demos.
Hey, there you go. Nice.
Because I demoed one of his games that I demoed. I enjoyed it a lot, and I taught it to 2 other groups of people.
Mm.
Yeah.
I
Well,
love
speaking
how
of,
Ignacy in his podcast he talks about how he doesn't like to travel all that much, and he finally came here to America, and he was going to spend like 3 weeks. He came to Dice Tower East, and he went to Texas, and then he went and hung out with oh god, I can't, one of the other podcast folks of rolling dice, and taking names and playing games, and came to America, and he caught COVID.
oh, nice.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
I was going to say, speaking of Ignacy, I also was part of a teach that he did of the new, I guess, a detective series of games, the Batman Everybody Lies. And I actually had never played a single one of the detective series. I know there's, 3 or 4 of them out there now. And I had never played any of them. And so it was kind of a cool experience. I played with 2 other guys that I didn't know. We just signed up for the demo, and we played a 3-player run through of the introductory scenario of the new Batman one. And one guy was very familiar. He had played all the detective stuff. One guy had played, I think, through the first season of it, and I hadn't played it all. So Ignacy was like, "Oh, this is perfect. This is what I like to see. I'm going to see how the interaction goes between people who have played and haven't played before." And I was impressed. I liked it. I really enjoyed the play. I'm not a huge Batman guy. I don't know all the ins and outs. So there were like some villains and stuff that showed up in there, and the 2 other guys that played are big fans. So they were like, "Oh, I know where this is going. I know who that is." And we'd just drop a name out of one of the files, and they'd be like, "Oh, that's definitely going to be a bad guy." So, but it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. And Ignacy, he's a fun guy. If anybody who's kind of just hung around and either learned a game from him or just chatted with him, he's a hoot. He's a really funny, cool guy to hang around. So, but let me just finish up with mine real quick. I taught Jamaica also on Wednesday. So I think it was all 3 players that I played with had not ever played before. So I taught that. We got that knocked out probably 30, 45 minutes. Quick little light boat racing game. You're racing around an island, collecting some goods and fighting each other a little bit. So that was fun. And then later in the evening, I got to teach and play one of the games that we always talk about on the channel here is one of the most underrated, unknown games that everybody really has to try some point, and that's Tyrants of the Underdark. So I'm not going to go too in depth on that one. We've talked several times on the channel about how much we like Tyrants of the Underdark, but a really fun area control card draft, or not drafting, but you're buying cards out of a market. Deck building, I guess, is what that is. That's that mechanism. But just a great mix of those 2 mechanics fighting each other, and set in the D&D universe. So there's a little bit of theme for you. But so you've got all those the Drow and all those D&D characters in there. But great game. So that taps off. The only thing I was going to mention is, again, I was going to say thank you again to Mitchell and to Ron Fraser for letting me crash on their floor. That was semi pre-planned.
We at least let you.
Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't the couch. I was planning on the floor, but when I got there, you offered the couch, which was even more gracious. But
would have been pretty douchey if I didn't.
Oh yeah. Well, I think we spent it was, I think, a whole 4 hours. I think it was in the room. So yeah, it was. I think I was definitely in after Ron went to bed, and I was gone well before he got up the next morning. So I don't even know if he knows that I had crashed there. But again, that was my Wednesday. That was my first day of the con.
And I'm assuming, Rob, you never stopped to eat. You didn't go, figure out. You just
no way. Yeah, I think I had
lives off the land.
Rob
I had
didn't
a
even
granola
use the
bar,
bathroom.
Oh, I didn't. No, I didn't. No. That was I waited until I got back
without
to
using the bathroom and
back to the
up and then
convention.
go to the bathroom.
Yeah. Ron was sleeping.
I told you he's creepy, bro. You had to
be cool
experience
with
it.
it.
He's creepy. You
Ron was
wake up
sleeping.
and he's sitting there like eyes open, just watching you sleep.
Ready to go.
It's
Ready to go.
creepy.
I wake up and I go to eat my cereal, and he's still
Watching
fully
you.
dressed, doesn't even have a blanket or anything. He's just like,
I just laid down the
it's like
couch.
he just left his eyes open all night.
That's me.
So-
I know you walked out. I
I'm
was ready to
laughing
go.
because it's true.
Oh, it's
like
true.
people don't
It's
get
true.
it.
Yeah.
And there are
Yeah.
other gamers that aren't even a part of this group anymore that still tell stories of Rob
Oh, they
coming
know.
out of the fog.
The
Hey,
mist at
guys.
2 a.m. That was me.
Well, the
that was
funny
Dice
thing is the way
Tower.
the way the
Convention
crew was
Rob
set
is
up,
so weird.
the rooms, it's like 2 separate rooms. There's a room that's like a bedroom and bathroom, and then the front room is like a living room. So it's like I'm closed off from where Rob is sleeping. The lights are off, and I just open the door, and it's like I'm going into another world where it's like, yeah, I've just been awake all night, just waiting for you to come back.
I'm waiting. Let's go game.
It's like,
Because
where's
and the thing
Johnny?
is, the night before, and we'll get to this, but I had a game scheduled at 7 a.m. with BJ, and I remember Rob saying like, I don't think I'm gonna be up that early, but like, because I have a game scheduled at 8, And so I'm waking up trying to be a little quiet, expecting to be by myself in there, and he's just waiting. So yeah, it was great.
So let's talk about the next morning. So here we
Well,
are.
hold on,
It's-
wait, I
it's
didn't get to talk
Thursday.
about my Wednesday. Can I tell
Oh,
you?
you
about
had a
my
Wednesday?
real quick? So I go to the
All right.
gaming hall. That's where I think I left
Start
off.
off with waking up because that's where you
Okay.
froze.
So Wednesday, I couldn't sleep. I was like a kid at Christmas. I woke up early. I went to the gaming hall. It wasn't open yet. It was, I think, supposed to open at 9. So there were just a few other, early birds, antsily.
Had you already
waiting.
registered and gotten your badges and all that?
the night before.
Okay, so
They had
they let
early
you get
bird.
badges the night before.
Right. So we were just kind of waiting outside the door, and a guy brought a game of Tapestry we played. And I know Rob passed by while I was playing that. Me and Ron Frazier got in a quick game of Imhotep before Gutenberg. Gutenberg was a lot of fun, as previously discussed. Then I got into a playtest of a game that I had signed up called Cyberspace. Designer named Andrew Ernst. Really, really nice guy. He actually had a pitch with Gray Fox the next day, and it moved on to the second round, and rightfully so, I think. So he's been working on this, he said, before Arnak and Dune, but it's a worker placement plus deck builder. But the cool thing is, you know how in Arnak, throughout the game, you get more worker placement spaces, but you don't know what they're going to be, right? You can't really plan ahead. We were talking about that on the call-in show this week, about knowing what you have access to and how it changes your planning. You know what all the spaces are, but you have to unlock the ones next to those spaces to get to them. So like, let's say I want this really powerful action all the way to the left of the board. I'm starting in the middle. I have to chart a path to where I go to these and then these and unlock them. So I can tactically decide, hey, I may not want to do these intermediate actions right here, but unless me or someone else goes to them, I'm never going to unlock this other action I need. And then there are ways you can manipulate it where I can actually say, oh, well, I'm going to take this action space and move it over here to this position that's already unlocked and completely change the game for the rest of the game, because now it's right here by the center, which is easier to unlock. But I'm also allowing my opponents easier access to it. It was a really, really cool concept. I liked it a lot, and I hope he goes far with it with Gray Fox. I was very impressed.
What was the title?
Cyberspace. That's a working title by designer Andrew Ernst. I then played a very strange game with BJ called Remember Our Trip. It was, I don't remember the name of the company, but it's like a foreign company somewhere in Asia, I believe, and very obscure abstract games. I taught BJ Azul Stained Glass. We played Scout. I don't know if you want to save Scout for whenever you guys played it the next day, or do you want to talk about Scout now?
No, we can talk about it now. As they
Yeah.
come up,
Yeah.
we'll talk about them.
So Scout is a card shedding, like ladder building game. It's kind of, I wouldn't call it trick taking, but it's like if I play.
Help me understand what ladder building means, because I heard y'all say that to me when you taught it to me on, I believe it was Thursday when I got to play it. What does ladder building mean?
If you play a single card, I can beat that with a single card of a higher number or with any set or run of a higher number of cards. So a 2 or 3 or 4 set or run. So if you play a 9, the only way I can beat that is to play a 10, or I can play a pair of 2s. Or
Kind of like liar's dice, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
when
in a
everything
way.
escalates. You have to escalate it up.
A couple cool things about this game is like the
theme.
cards are double. The theme.
Ugh.
Recruiting circus people. That's the sarcasm there. The thing is, if you can't beat me, if you can't go up that ladder, then you take one of the cards and I get a point for that. But now the hand is weaker for the next person to make them beat it, because if it gets all the way around, you're going to win, lose all your cards, and we all get negative points for the cards we still have. Another cool thing is all the cards are double-sided. And at the beginning of the game, you choose, do I want these sides of the cards or these side? But then you cannot manipulate your hand at all. You can only play cards next to each other. So just because I have a run of 5, 6, 7, 8, if they're spread out in my hand, I can't play them. So that's the really cool thing, because whenever you pick up one of those cards from an opponent, you put it wherever you want and flip it with whatever side you want. I thought it was a pretty unique, simple game, but with a lot of strategy. What were y'all thoughts?
A lot of the points that you brought up, it's what to me looked like a simple card game, really stunned me with the inability to modify your hand. So your hand has to stay in the order that you got it. And because the cards are dual, meaning when you flip them, they have different numbers on the top or the bottom. When you put them in your hand, you have to decide which orientation it's going to be. That doesn't change, right? And so I was like, this is too restrictive. How am I going to build hands that can beat the hand that's currently face up on the table? Well, then I started seeing it come together for me when you start to pool the card from the hand on the table. It begins to weaken that hand, and eventually someone's going to be able to defeat the hand on the table. And the way you end the round is if you cannot defeat the hand so that it goes all the way around the table back to the player who played it, right? That's what ended the round.
Or if you run out of cards.
Run out of cards, yeah.
All those things together as mechanisms really made this game stand out for me as not a lightweight game, very much a middle to heavier weight card game that's deeper than it looks. Thumbs up for me.
Yeah, and you hit it on the head there. I mean, you mentioned the combination of those mechanics, but I'm trying to think. There were several mechanics in there I don't think I've ever seen in a card game before. There may be others out there, but I haven't ever seen the cards where you have to keep them in that orientation. You can play them either right side up or upside down, or however you want to look at the perspective. But that you get that choice at the beginning of the round of how is this going to benefit me the most to play them this orientation or that orientation, and then having to kind of keep them and add cards in certain ways. I don't think I've ever seen a game that quite does that before. So that was pretty unique to me, and that was the big hook for me was those little decisions that you got to make that you don't get to make in a lot of other trick taking or card games. So that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Yeah. My favorite part of that game is once per round, you have this action called a scout and show, where not only can I weaken my opponent's hand by taking one card, but I can also then play a card. So I weaken it and then play my own.
The scout and show for me really hit those great combos.
Yeah, that's for sure. And like you say, weakening and then being able to know that you've just weakened it and then play something right off the bat to get back at your opponents is really cool.
Well, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but obviously when you talk about games where you have a hand of cards and you can't move them around, you think back to Bonanza, which is
I've owned Bonanza for years. I've never played it, but I need to play it sometime.
It's not it sounds like Scout is kind of a cooperative game, right? So you guys are trying to, it's kind of like deep space, whatever. But but it's hard when you have that hand of cards and you can't change the order. But you can.
The OCD in you wants to organize them too.
Oh yeah, Carlos had a hard time with that.
The Magic player who wants to shuffle his cards randomly in his hand, and you can't do that. And that's interesting. But I think the twist to that is one being able to rotate the cards. That sounds really cool because it's not only
the decision space.
It's not only you have to have the cards in a certain order, but then when you put them in a certain order, you have to decide is it how you can orientate the card. That would be cool. Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see why it's been nominated for awards. It's been nominated for several, and I don't know, Mitch might have mentioned this before, but I think even the Spiel it was nominated for. So yeah, I mean, it's a really good game.
And I think it's the same company that does Insider. It's I believe a Japanese company, if I remember correctly. They put all those boxes and everything in tiny little boxes. Pig something, pig out, pig.
Oink
Games. That's it. Yeah, Oink Games.
That's the one.
So after that, I played some Camel Up, Role Player, On the Rocks, which is kind of like Potion Explosion, but with alcohol. And then Night of the Ninja, which is a game that Diego picked up in the virtual flea market.
That one surprised me.
A party game, but it's like you have different factions, and whichever faction ends up surviving the round gets points. But even if you don't survive, as long as someone from your faction survives at the highest level, and you're drafting cards, these powers, and you don't know what each other's roles are, so you don't know if you're killing someone of your own faction. It was unique. You like that one too, Rob?
Yeah, it was fun. I don't usually like social deduction, but this one, like you mentioned at the beginning of every round, there's some randomness. You're just kind of randomly attacking people, and you don't know. There are a few cards that you can draft that let you peek and let you see somebody, and then decide whether to attack them. So that gives everybody else a little bit of information. If I peek and then I decide not to attack, it probably tells everybody that we're on the same faction. But again, nobody else knows what that faction is, so they don't know whether we're on their team or the other team. And so as you kind of go through
like
the
War
game,
Whispers.
A little bit, yeah. War of Whispers is a little different, but that's not a big board, and you're
the feeling of not knowing what side you're on. Like, are we together? That kind of a feeling. Like, I don't know if you're my enemy or my friend.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, at War of Whispers, you've got different. There's 4 different houses, I think, that you're trying to sway, and everybody gets points, either 4, 3, 2, or 1, depending on how the house does. So yeah, there might be 2 people who are both pushing for one house. So yeah, I see what you're saying there.
But I don't know that you are on my side or not, and I have to trust what your actions are saying. I like that.
Exactly.
So faster than War of Whispers, lighter, faster.
Oh yeah. This is real quick card game. We played through a couple times, probably in maybe 30 minutes. And I don't remember how many of us we had playing that. It plays a pretty good.
7 or 8 of us. It was.
I was 7 or 8. Yeah, it's got a good high count, but yeah, that again, it's not serious deduction. That's the part I don't like, the serious deduction where you're having to make the right choices all the time. This one, you're just like, oh, I'm going to attack you, and if I killed somebody in my faction, all right, well, we'll get some new cards in a minute. We'll do it again. So yeah, real light and quick and fun. Yeah.
Very cool.
So that was my Wednesday. So now you have my permission, Carlos, to progress us onto Thursday. Yes.
Okay. With you talking about waking up, I thought it was a good segue into that.
Yeah.
But we are now getting to Thursday, and I'm getting closer to actually showing up to this thing.
A little closer.
Like 12 hours away or something.
Well, we started taking bets. I know there was some over and unders on whether you were going to be there before Thursday night's call-in show. That was the over under, was whether you were actually going to make it in time to get that set up and going, which you did. So Thursday night we did our show from the show, our show from the con. But we can cap off with that. But yeah, Thursday. Where do we want to start on Thursday?
Why don't you first? Well, Rob, I don't think ever went to sleep. Remember, I walk out and he's just there.
Yeah, exactly.
We went down and played Terracotta Army. Rob, I know that's your baby. If you want to lead off on that, I know we talked about it a lot already.
Well, I can, and I can't thank you enough for getting me in on that. I know you had a demo scheduled of it. You, and I think you told me that going into it that you thought it was a full table. You thought there were going to be 4 people. I guess maybe 4 people had signed up, and it was Rainer from Boards and Dice, if I got the name correct there, that taught us, and he did an excellent job of teaching. I had actually heard before that he's a great teacher, and he ran us through it, and yeah, that was kind of my game of the con was a Terracotta Army. And but again, I tagged along. You got up. I was already up and or waking up and was ready to go when you were heading out the door. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll tag along. I'll watch over your shoulder and just learn how the game goes. When we got down there, it was just you and BJ, who had also signed up for it, but I guess the other 2 that were scheduled didn't show up. So
to be clear, it wasn't an official scheduled demo. BJ just
wasn't.
Rainer. Was like, hey, can you teach us this game?
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay, that's what it was then. So we showed up. There was an open seat, so I sat down, and Rainer ran us through it, and we played. I played almost a complete game. I had to bail out, I think, right before the final scoring because I had a game of Glass Road scheduled. So I ran over and played that next. But yeah, Terracotta Army, again, I've talked about it a little bit already in some of our past shows, but that was definitely my game of the con. It wasn't out yet. I believe it isn't still out, so it's still in pre-order status if I'm correct. But yeah, lots.
I think I was seeing things about Gen Con, it being available at Gen Con now.
Is it nice? Okay.
I think I saw something about that.
But they had a copy of the Hot Games area. I know Tom Vassell mentioned again that was one of the top played games. He kind of theorized, he said, because it wasn't out yet, and he knows people always like that exclusivity that, I played a game that's not even out yet. So he kind of theorized that was one of the big reasons that it was as popular as it was. But yeah, that table was full pretty much the whole con. But a little touch of theme for you. So you're craftsmen, you're building the Terracotta Army in the mausoleum, and you're all playing on the same. It's a worker placement is the main mechanic. You've got a couple of dials, a couple of wheels that you're able to turn without getting into too much detail to set up 3 actions. When you take an action space, there's 3 different levels of this wheel that you do each of the 3 different actions. And so you're trying to manipulate that wheel so that when you take that worker placement spot, you can have the best 3 actions available to you. So you're doing that, which allows you to build these little terracotta army guys into the mausoleum. And then you're scoring, I think it's 5 rounds. I think you score at the end of each of the 5 rounds. There's a variable.
We ended up only doing 4 because your demo.
Was it 4?
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be 5.
Okay. So I cut it short. So down at the bottom, there's some random ways you score different things. You can score for a number of not tiles, but clay that you have. It can be most money. It can be this grid. And then at the end of the game, everything's going into this mausoleum. You're building all these little terracotta guys into the mausoleum. And there's one big scoring of the mausoleum with some areas of majority and some bonus things that you score for some special pieces that you put over there. And one of the really cool things about the game, I guess I can't jump off it quite yet because we've got to mention the box. And everybody's talking about this storage solution, and this is really cool. There's 4 different types of terracotta army people. There's generals and pikemen and archers and something else in there. But anyway, irrelevant. But they're nice little minis. They're pretty well done. They're not super detailed, but they're nice minis. But they store in this storage solution that's a box of its own that they store upside down. So it's the bases that are up at the top. So it actually makes a flat top to it once they're all filled in. in, and they're filled in the 4 different columns of where they go. The box also functions as a scoring for the game because as
Reminder.
you as a reminder, that's good because as you pull them out, the game rewards you for putting guys into the mausoleum, putting these Terracotta Army people into the mausoleum that aren't as prevalent. So if there's more unbuilt, let's say, pikemen, then I think it starts at 8 points for the very first one that comes out, 7 points automatically for the second one. Then it goes down 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the game kind of pushes you to kind of balance building these different ones. Each one of them also can have a special power, which you have 4 little weapon tokens that you flip over to a used side or an unused side, and you're taking actions to flip those. But if you build a particular kind of guy and you have the weapon token that's available that matches that, the archer, of course, it's a bow or whatever, a crossbow. If you can flip that, it actually gives you bonus points when you deploy them, as well as gives them a special ability. I remember one of the pieces, after you put it out, you can later then slide another piece up against it, which can help you to kind of score one way and then slide it to somewhere that's going to score again later. So just some really cool little things you do there. But that game, I ended up playing that twice. I taught it again the next morning.
Yeah, you came back to it Friday.
Yeah, so
Watch a scoring video before you play it the first time. The in-game
the
scoring is
scoring at the
convoluted,
end,
but once
it
you
is.
see it one time, you get it.
Yeah, and it is cool the way that you score all the different things. They all, like I say, have little different abilities, and they score different ways. And so it is convoluted. That's the hardest part about it, is the in-game scoring. But I'll just quickly run through some of the other games that I played. That was definitely my highlight. I'm looking at my list here. So I mentioned I ran over to Glass Road. That was the first time I'd played that Uwe Rosenberg game. I'm a pretty big fan of him as a designer in general. I didn't love Glass Road. He's got some new concepts in there that he hadn't used in prior games. It's similar to a lot of his games, but there was a few things that he tried in Glass Road that I've heard a lot of people have liked, that he's kind of branched out into some different areas. But I wasn't a huge fan, but without getting all the details on that one, I probably would play it again, but just to give it a second shot. But I played, just kind of running down my list here, we played Abomination. We played most of a game of Abomination, but that's before we ran into our, that was right as Carlos was showing up, actually. We ran into our little room issue, but without getting into a whole lot of detail.
I can share that.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah, if you want to jump in there, go ahead. Yeah.
No. When
you want me to finish up? Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll pass to you in a minute. But I'll just hit all the other ones I played. I played Planet Unknown, which was in the hot games area. That's a game I had played before. I've talked about on our call-in show before that I'm not as big a fan as a lot of other people have been of that game. I know Mitchell, I think, has a different opinion than I do, but it was okay. I'm not a huge fan of Planet Unknown. I did like my first play of New York Zoo, a little tile placing polyomino puzzle game. I'm not a huge tile laying fan, but New York Zoo I liked quite a bit. I'm actually looking forward to get a chance to try that one again. I know that's been pretty hot and popular lately. I played Unicorn Fever. I made the mistake of thinking I could teach that game. It was right after we got done with a late night game of Scout. I think that was Carlos was heading to bed, and Nick and Oben and a couple other people grabbed me, and they said, "Hey, we're playing this Unicorn Fever game." I was like, "Oh yeah, I played that one." It had been 2 or 3 years since I had played it. I was like, "I'll come over and teach that." And as soon as I sat down and looked at the board, it hit me that, holy crap, I have no idea how to play this game. And so I had to whip out the rule book, and basically the table sat and listened to me read for 20 minutes going through the rules. So, but we got it done.
Midnight. That feels great.
Yeah. So that was my bad there. I shouldn't have been so eager to teach it, but they were looking for a teacher, and they were appreciative because I knew about 20% of the game, but I did have to relearn about 80% of it. But that was my, I did some gaming well after midnight that night. That was a late night for me, but that gets into Friday. So I'll hand off
after
there.
midnight still counts as Thursday, but that's
still counting
fine.
it? So yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
did
still counts.
transmissions and a couple other games.
Not until you fall asleep does it trigger the next day. I mean,
okay.
we're just getting
Is
to
that
the
how it
part
works?
where
Well, Rob never
Mitchell's
slept,
waking up.
so
Yeah, I don't ever
Oh,
sleep,
wow.
so it's all one big con for me. So
it's like a vampire.
Yeah.
So Mitchell, Wednesday you got to play some Terracotta Army. What else did you get to play?
after that, I played a lot of games I already played: Quarter Miracles, New York Zoo, Shards of Infinity, Merchant's Cove. One that really stood out for me was Turing Machine. This is a game that's not out yet. I think it's releasing at Gen Con. It's think of the whole Enigma machine, World War II. There is a 3-number code that everybody is trying to figure out, and the way that you do it is you pick a random code, And then there are 4 different questions each round that you can ask of the machine. And it's this really cool thing where it's like this grid with holes and you line them all up and it'll tell you whether the question you're asking is yes or no. And based on that, you're deducing what you have right of the code, what you have wrong of the code. And it's basically who can get it in the fewest number of questions asked of the machine. I think Rob said he didn't like this one, but I thought it was really, really cool. It comes with, I think, 20 puzzles, but they said there's like 1 million more that you can get offline using those components. It's really cool. It's really hard to explain without a visual, but it's incredibly clever.
Wait, it's Mastermind, right? It sounds like Mastermind.
It is kind of
that we grew up with.
A little bit, yeah.
I've never played that. That sounds like, but
it's a code breaking game, but yeah, it's very similar. So
Mitchell was going to say there, it sounds like an old person's game.
Oh yeah,
you're not here when I
That's what
said
I was
that?
gonna say there.
old man game. Yeah, no, we lost you there. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds exactly like Mastermind. Mastermind, there's a code, and it
Try to
tells
crack
you
the
whether you
code.
got it right or wrong, and if you got it right, but not in the right place, and it sounds like Mastermind.
Kind of similar, yeah.
Anyway, after Turing Machine, we played Rob mentioned Planet of Abomination, taught Istanbul. That was a nice big group playing Istanbul. That was a fun game. Mountain Goats. And then I think we got to talk a little bit about Transmissions. Carlos played that as
sure.
well. It's a really cool looking game. It was in the hot games area. It's these little robot meeples. The game seems so random, though. It's like, hey, if you played cards with the least amount of acorns painted on them, you get this many points. Like, that was the most random thing ever. The thing is, it's kind of like a rondel game or a worker placement game where we're all sharing these robots. The idea is, the theme, Carlos, is like you're programming a robot and you're sending out your plan to different robots to do the things. And it's a lot like Four Gardens, where you can't really plan ahead, because if somebody moves the robot you want and then you can't get it on the rondel to the action you want, then it screws up your whole game. And it's like you're trying to give so whenever you use that robot, it's going to have different abilities than when other people use it, because you've programmed your robot differently. It was a cool concept. I don't think any of us really liked it that much, but it was unique. I'll say that.
I felt bad because Diego and Rachel brought us over there, and they were talking about how much they enjoyed it.
No, I appreciated the teach. I did.
Yeah, the teach was great, but at the end of the game, I'm like, oh wow, that was like Candyland, like
Yeah.
flip card, move around on board, and it also, I think what bugged me was their attempt to be beautiful in the art made the game harder to understand what you had. I had cards where I'm like, well, is there a bird on this card or not? Is that a bird? Or is that just the corner of a pipe? Because it says, how many birds do you have in your cards? But they don't have an icon for a bird. It's like just like a
You have to
random.
examine the art. Yeah.
Yes, you have to like look at the art to say, is that a bird? Is that not a bird? Is it 2 birds? Is that how many acorns are on here? They're kind of like randomly spread out on the card. They're not like acorns in a corner. They're like acorns on a field of grass with leaves. And I'm like trying to, I'm playing I Spy, spot it. How many acorns do I? Anyway, all that to say, I agree with everything you said. Beautiful miniatures, beautiful art. Just not a game for me.
Yeah, I was. That's another expectations game for whatever reason. I don't know why. I guess because it was getting some buzz. I was expecting a lot more out of the game, and then when I sat down and played it and saw how light it was, I was like, "Oh, yeah, I wanted something more out of that." So it wasn't bad, but yeah, it was. I agree, it was very random. There was somebody moved the wrong robot right before I wanted to move them. It kind of screwed up everything I wanted to do.
Pissed me off. It was
Yeah,
getting late. I'm
exactly.
like, I'm going to bed and touching my robot. I think that
Hey, you won
bothered me
the
the
game,
most.
Carlos.
Did I?
Yep.
God, and I still was just like was angry. I think that bothered me the most was the fact that the robots are there for anyone to touch. That bothers me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to use the yellow robot. Do not use that yellow robot.
So you got there. You showed up there that day, Carlos.
I did. And so we showed up and we're kind of waiting outside for check-in. Check-in is like at 4:00. I think Rob tried to set up an early check-in. And I'm sitting there with the family. I got the baby in the car. She's still fussing because she's sick. And we're just literally sitting in the parking lot waiting for check-in time. 30 minutes goes by, and Rob's like, they still haven't called me. I got nothing. So I'm like, hey, Rob, we got to like push and go ask. Come put your game of Abomination down. Let's go figure out what's going on with the hotel. We get up to the front lobby. Apparently, they had overbooked all the villas. So here it is. Rob and I have had this villa booked since 2019, rolling over each year, carrying over. And nothing. No villa for you. and we have two families, his whole family, my whole family. We have coolers full of meats and food. Like, that's what we do. We eat like we eat at home there. So it's very frustrating, but they did a great job of compensating us for the difficulty of it and providing some, just compensation and reduction in costs that made my wife not hate the trip. But it was frustrating, the idea that 2019 you can book a villa, show up 3 years later, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, we overbooked."
Yeah, it was a bummer. Yeah, that was changed expectations. I mean, it didn't ruin the trip, but it was definitely a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my check-in, and then after that, I tried to get the family loaded up, got them all set up in the regular rooms upstairs, where Rob and I could share a doorway between our rooms, so the kids could still play together. So that kind of worked out okay. But then I got into some gaming. I got into some Istanbul. Y'all taught me the Scout. We talked about that. You sold me on Mountain Ghost, and I bought it, right, and brought it with me.
Blame him.
Yes, and then my first game at Dice Tower of it, and I was like, Mountain Ghost wasn't everything. It was okay, but I like it. I like it enough to keep it.
But I do love that you guys busted out Istanbul. That's a classic.
That's fun. First time I'd ever played.
I love Istanbul. It's a great game. Like that's what's good about, like, it's good to, when you go to those games, you play Terracotta Army and you play Scout, you play these games that aren't released yet or the new hotness. But it's always good to go back and grab off the shelf one of those old school games that, like, Rob, you've never played it. You've been a gamer a long time.
I've never played it.
It was a 5-player game I was teaching.
Yeah.
No one had played it. BJ, Ron, Carlos, or Rob. None of them had played it.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's crazy and good. That, like,
it was good.
Y'all took the time to take a game that's, I don't know, 10 plus years old now.
Yeah.
Cool.
And there's a reason that game has been, well loved and still talked about, 10 years later. I actually thought it was a really well done game. And I think I got really close to winning that one.
Yeah, I was about to say, I've told you guys, I don't take it easy whenever I'm teaching someone a game, but if someone comes in with about 90% of winning, I consider that a win. I think Rob was maybe 1 turn away from winning, and Carlos was like 2 turns away from winning. So y'all did great.
It was very competitive.
Officially 8 years old now. Istanbul 2014.
So yeah, thank you for teaching me some classics, Mitchell. I appreciate that.
And then we had the show, which was cool. We had all kinds of people
in between
popping
all
in and
that,
out.
we actually did the live show. Tom Vassell came by and chatted with us right before the show, kind of before he headed out for dinner. We got to interview a bunch of people during the show. It all worked out. And then that was my Thursday, but it was a good day. Family was a little upset, a little disappointed because we didn't have the big suite, the big villa together as a family. But we thought we were going to start off on a bad foot. But I got to say, overall, at the end of the trip, we were still okay.
Well, I gotta say, I'm sure you don't want to share all the financials, but I know I'm outside looking in. The deal that you guys ended up getting,
well, they
I think that was where they started. Like, was a slap in the face.
Yeah,
right. Like, but we won't charge you for parking.
Yeah, so I pushed
I got a cooler full of steaks.
Yeah, that's what I was pushing.
I'm supposed to cook tonight.
I was like, I asked her. I said, well, the room has an oven or something in it, right? And she's like, well, it's got a microwave. And I was like, oh, well, no, we brought a whole cooler of like steaks and potatoes and stuff that we were going to make. And now we're not going to be able to do any of that. We're going to have one of the kids run that back to Tampa. And so she kind of typed on the computer there for a minute. And then she's like, all right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to comp your stay. We're going to take care of the whole thing. And I was like, okay, well, I can't argue with that. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened to the steaks?
We sent him back with my oldest son. Yeah.
Oh, really? We had to drive all the way back to Tampa with everything?
Well, he stayed
around for a few days.
Okay. He stayed one night, yeah, and then he went back the next day, yeah.
We had to shove him into the mini fridge, next to the waters. I think mine started dripping blood everywhere.
Oh, boy.
But it all worked out. At the end of the day, the family got to go eat out instead of having to eat in.
Yeah.
So the kids were happy about that.
Could have been worse.
So, but Friday, I got up Friday. Rob and I got up, I think, and headed out Friday morning, which was the Dice Towers Tom Vassell flea market thing.
Oh, yeah.
So we just kind of wanted to see, is it, scope it out, right? So Robert and I start walk down there, and then we see the line. And Robert and I are like, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him, he's looking at me, I'm looking at him. We met up with Mahir Shah, designer of Viticulture World, and so he called into the show before we talked. But I was able to get my rulebook signed by Mahir there,
And you immediately started trying to sell it to people in the line.
Nobody made any offers though, so I kept it. But then Robert and I was like, we're not going to go in there, and so we just ended up. I think we played Mountain Goats. That was that morning.
Yep, we did.
We played Mountain Goats right outside of the flea market, so we can kind of keep an eye on the line. But then the line never died down. So then we went into the hall and we played Meadow. So I played some Meadow. I played on Friday Baseball Highlights 2045, and I'm going to highlight that one a little bit because that gave me an opportunity to play with Berkey of Game Toppers.
Game Toppers.
Thanks to Mitchell and BJ from Board Game Gumbo, they knew that Berkey was looking for a play of that game. Y'all asked around who likes it. It's one of my favorite games. I actually own 4 copies of it because I try to do tournaments of it. And I got to play a really competitive match against Berkey of Game Toppers. I think he was the first annual champion of the World Championships for Baseball Highlights 2045. Before Phil is it, who took over, winning them all of them. But Berkey's really good at it. So we had a really tough match, a series of games. But that was great to get to meet him, chat with him, and play games. So thank you for making that happen, Mitchell and BJ. And then I got to play some Lost Ruins of Arnak. Dan, I don't think Dan had an opportunity to play it yet. So we taught him and his wife, Sarah. And William played with us. He had played before. And we had a really good time. It reminded me why this game is still just a solid, good game. Like, why am I not playing the games I love more? Right? Wayne asks that all the time. Why we always chasing the new. And I get it. Arnak is newish. But in my mind is one of the better worker placement games. So that's what my Friday looked like. Anyone chime in?
Go ahead.
Any
Rob.
of those games sound good to you, Wayne?
Several of them do. I mean, I love Arnak. Arnak's a great game. Played that a bunch on BGA. I just got a copy of it, nice and cheap, from the Your Turn Board Game Cafe, garage sale, flea market, whatever you want to call it.
I don't think we've played that one on video yet, Rob. So with
I don't
Wayne
think
in
so,
town,
yeah.
let's make that one happen.
I'm
Yeah,
down.
sure.
So, yeah.
Oh, and Meadow was garbage.
Was it?
I'm not a big fan of Meadow.
Meadow was pretty garbage. It was very beautiful garbage.
The one thing I mean, gaming is good, but man, I would have loved to have gone to that flea market because they had several thousand games, because they had a couple of years of built up inventory to sell.
Here's the thing, though. Okay, I waited in the line.
So Mitchell's morning flea market.
I bought nothing because here's the thing: were there games there I wanted to buy? Yes. Were the prices good enough to make me want to lug them around the con and pack them on the plane? No. At first, anyway. These are all games.
But if you're driving back to Tampa versus flying home,
I guess maybe. But later on that day, I'm in the middle of a game of Perseverance with Mahir, actually. Basically Jurassic Park, the game. And Tom Vassell comes in and he says, "Hey, I'm about to throw all these games out. Take a box, fill it up, pay what you want. 0 is a valid amount of money." So I go in, I look at every table. There's still probably 1,000 games. There's literally not a single game that I recognize. So I just start grabbing by publisher, and then I start grabbing by cool box cover. Then I start grabbing by still and shrink. Toss them $20 and head out there. I have still not played a single one of those games, but I plan to eventually.
So you got to list them out and see if any of them ring bell. But so the prices weren't. So the Vassal one, the prices weren't grabbing you for what was available.
Correct.
But there were some good titles in there. They were I was watching people walk out with Barrage and really new Euro games.
Now the people at the front of the line probably got some pretty good deals on some rarer stuff, but I was kind of middle of the pack or front and middle. And by the time I was in there, it was maybe a few dollars off what you would buy in a store. And it's I'd rather just get a new one at that point.
Yeah. Well, that's what I got my copy of Arnak eventually cheaper because the original price, I'm oh, what do you want for Arnak? $35. I'm well, I can go on Amazon and get it for 42. So I'm not paying you 35 for a game I can go buy brand new for $7 more. Waited an hour, came back, said, how about 25 or how about 30? Okay. Yeah. Cause then you'll take it. So I wonder if the other flea market had better deals than the Dice Tower direct flea market.
It did.
I'm sure the next day. That for you to find out.
So yeah, after Perseverance, which was very long, like 4 hours. I played Dreadful Circus. So this was one of the ongoing demos in the Portal Games room. I really, really enjoyed it. Later, I taught BJ and his wife and Rob, and that's whenever Ignacy said, really good demo. And then the next day I taught Diego and Rach and Michelle, and that's whenever Ignacy said he wanted to hire me. But anyway, it's a really fun game. So it's the idea is that you're trying to get rid of your circus acts because they're bad, and you're trying to make other people buy them. So you have these cards, but most of the cards you're not playing. You are putting them out for bid, trying to make a pitch for people to buy them, and people are bidding on them. And they're putting in this box either money or like these contracts to go to different cities that are set collection, and they give you this little wagon, a covered wagon. They're either bidding on one of two cards that round. You open a box. If you don't like it, you give it back, but then you can never go back to it. So if the next person is even cheaper, then you're stuck with that. And there was so much fun. It's like we would open a box and look at it like, seriously, you're going to be that cheap, and give it back to them. And then we'd open the next box. It's like, wow, that was worse than that one, but it's too late now. It was a lot of fun. I played it 3 times over the course of the con. Highly recommended. Portal Games.
That's Dreadful Circus.
Dreadful Circus. You like that one, all right, Rob?
Yeah, that was a fun game. That's another one of those. It's not really a deduction game, but it's there's definitely some social there because you're doing some bidding. You're trying to manipulate people. You're trying to make them think your stuff's worth more than what it is, maybe, or that you put a good bid in there. And there was some little tricks we played, thumping some things down to make it sound like it was heavier, or rattling the box so that you could hear that there was some stuff in there. It may have been bending the rules or the spirit of the game a little bit, but it was fun. We had a good time. We had some good laughs over that one. So yeah, I like that one quite a bit.
That was one that the people you play with make it fun or not, I think.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. After that, we played some Ratfink, Scurry, and Scamper, which is a trick-taking game that is not yet out. We were taught by the designer. Rob taught some Age of War. We played Seven Wonders Architects and the infamous Wild Serengeti, which we've probably talked about enough.
Yeah,
What about
not big fans?
What about your day, Rob?
Yeah, just kind of looking through. So I got let's see, played Seven Wonders Architects. That was a fun game, a quick light game. I played a few times before. I actually had only played that, I think, on BGA. I know Carlos has had a copy for a while, but I played it several times on Board Game Arena. I had never played it in person until Dice Tower, but that was fun. It was a real similar experience, and so that was a lot of fun. I mentioned before that I got to play Marvel Dice Throne, so we had a game of that. Age of War, as you mentioned, I taught a group of people to play that, so that was a lot of fun. Quick little dice chucking set collection game.
You somehow managed to get that played at just about every game day and or convention. I don't know how you do it.
It's a great filler game, man.
Yeah, that's my pocket filler. That's a game that just about any time, and especially with newer gamers, that's a game that it's so easy to teach.
We were actually waiting for Wild Serengeti to be free while we played that. That's why we
were.
That.
And then you were wishing you were back playing Age of War.
It's another Kinesia game, super quick. Nice.
Yeah, the good doctor, he's good.
Yep.
Yeah, and then we played that Dreadful Circus. That was a lot of fun. I mentioned that I liked that quite a bit. After that, we played. Maybe I missed it. You probably mentioned this. Ratfink, Scurry, and Scamper.
Yeah.
Did you mention that one?
I mentioned it, but I didn't highlight
like 30 seconds ago.
Okay. Yeah, we exactly. I'm old. I got a short memory. You forget. But anyway, that one was fun. I think it was the designer that we played with, or one of the co-designers here. I'm looking at it, and the game is not out yet, if I remember, or maybe it's just now coming out.
I think he said it's going to Kickstarter soon.
Okay. So yeah, so we got a little inside look at that one. It was a trick-taking game. There we go. That's the word I'm thinking of. So a little trick-taking game. There's a board and there's some other mechanics mixed in with it. It was good. It was fun. It wasn't my favorite type of trick-taking game. I never played one quite like it. I hear it's similar to an old classic game. German Whist is a game that's been played for years and years and years, I guess, in Europe. And this is kind of a twist on that. But it was a solid, fun little game. I also got a chance to play Terracotta Army for my second play. I taught, I think it was 3 new players, Ron Frazier, and then there were 2 others that I taught. I can't remember, but anyway, everybody enjoyed that game that we played. And then I got a chance to play Lost Cities Roll and Write. Actually, I played that with Ron Frazier. And Carlos, you were in on that one too, weren't you?
Yes.
Yeah,
and it was literally Lost Cities with dice. I mean, I felt like it was no different than playing Lost Cities, except it was multiplayer with dice.
Right. And I liked it, although I think I like the card game quite a bit better. I don't think that this would ever replace the card game for me. I know you're a fan of the dice, but what did you think of? Do you think it compared at all to
No,
the
I'd
card
rather
game?
play the card game, and I'd rather play it tactically 2-player than having to wait for my turn to chuck some dice and do what I could have done faster in 2-player.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And then we got a couple of late night games in that actually, according to my list, bled into after midnight. So they went into Saturday. I think we're Saturday now, aren't we? Yeah. That was, we played a group game of cartographers with a bunch of people from the Dice Tower. I'm
That
sorry,
was
for the
the
Beans
next
Dice
night.
group. Was that the next night? Oh,
That was the
okay.
next night. Yeah, you
Yeah.
need to get more sleep, Robert.
I'm getting too far ahead then. Yeah. So I couldn't remember these ones that I've got kind of on the borderline from one night to the next. But okay, well, then that was my Friday. Friday. We're still on
that was
Friday.
Friday.
Right? Yeah,
Friday
Yep.
evening.
There we go.
So far, the con's going great. I'm getting into Saturday thinking, man, I really miss all the extra events of the past. The panels, the demo rooms, the war game room,
The top 10 lists, the game
the
show
shows
things
that you
they
get to
did.
watch.
Yeah.
Oh, we did do an event that day. I forgot. Trivia with Ignacy.
Oh,
That
yes,
was
we
fun.
did. Yeah, that was fun.
So
Yeah.
it
Yeah,
was
and I went in
trivia-
and watched you guys do it.
It was trivia about Portal games, really tough trivia. And
Yeah.
he was ragging on us. We were doing very, very poorly. But then the girl who ended up winning, she actually knew a
Yeah.
lot about Portal games. I was impressed. And he said,
Yeah.
"Come by the booth tomorrow, pick out a game." I didn't realize there was gonna be a
Yeah.
prize. I thought we were just playing
That's
for
pretty cool.
fun.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
cool.
I think next year's Dice Tower Race you might see some more panels and stuff. But
Yeah.
I think we're like Tom doesn't want to have to dedicate, or the Dice Tower crew, they don't want to dedicate so much time at Dice Tower East to be doing top 10 lists and their own stuff. But I think that let the publishers do it, let other outside people do it.
Mhm.
Host events. I think that's where you could see some growth in the con, is
they
allowing other people, like, hey, Beans and Dice does a thing, or some of the other content contributors do some things to have events and panels and stuff.
There were a few other events we didn't do. There was the what's the car flicking game?
Yeah.
Flick 'em up, not
Pitch
flick 'em
Car.
up. Pitch
Car.
Pitch car
There's
tournament.
Car,
There's Wits and
yeah.
Wagers.
But
There was
Terracotta is the German name of it.
Ignacy did do like a what's going on at Portal Games talk kind of thing. So there were a few things. We just there was something Ignacy did one about
His biggest mistakes in game design or something like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Biggest regrets, I think it was.
I
Yeah.
think that like you had Ignacy, he was a big like sponsor. Portal Games is a sponsor of the con. I think you could see some more of that in the future, is having a couple of publishers put on stuff that people want to enjoy.
Yeah, like when Robert and I went to Komini or Simon Expo.
Uh-huh.
I think my favorite part was hitting up all the panels, listening to designers talk, listening to Eric Lang talk about design process, theory, sales, all that stuff. I really like just hearing about that stuff. So I'm really hoping that comes back. So that gets us into Saturday. Saturday was the real flea market, the big one, right? So that's when everybody got to do the big flea market. So I actually was selling at the flea market, selling like coasters and stuff off the laser machine, with the intent of using that money to help pay for the, offset the cost of the con. But I ended up just buying a bunch of games and picked up some games for Wayne. I think that I hauled back because he had a list that he had texted me on. So I grabbed some games for Wayne, grabbed some games for myself, got me a second copy of Rallyman GT. Because one copy of a game is never good
enough.
No, I was gonna because it came with an expansion in it, and not the expansion I thought. It didn't come with the green die. It comes with like a bridge, and some other stuff. Really weird wear tokens on Rallyman GT cars, where each round you start to wear down your tires and their ability to grip. So like the number of dice you use. So it's like a wear marker. The more you drive on that set of tires, the less the tires start working. So it's pretty interesting. Anyway, at the end of the day, I just want to put together one big track with all those hexes. That's why I'm going to go ahead and keep both. Saturday for me, what really stood out was the 3 or 4 hours, Rob, we spent playing High Frontier with Dan.
For all, yeah. It was at least 4 hours, yeah.
Yeah, High Frontier is just a huge, very scientifically based space game about launching stuff into space and then using that stuff to go explore the galaxy, like actual science, explore the galaxy. 4 hours that I did not feel any negative emotions about.
No. You had
the
some
time
frustration
that I spent. I felt frustration about the inability to do what I wanted to do, like science wise. But I was really glad we spent that time together going through that with Dan.
I got some good news for you. I talked to Dan 2 nights ago. I was over at Your Turn, and he went online and did a little researching, and he found out that the main designer, Phil Eklund, has come up with a officially sanctioned startup, basically
like
a
a prelude.
Yep, to the game. And the first part of the game is instead of the auction system that they had before, is a draft where you're just grabbing parts. And
Oh God,
parts.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, it cuts about an hour and a half to 2 hours off the beginning of the game.
It took 3 hours before I could launch something into space. And then once I had it into space, we really only had an hour left that we had dedicated because we just kind of wanted to get to the first part of the game.
Yeah.
So it's like 3 hours into the game, I finally get a freaking thing into space, and then I don't have enough time to actually use it.
That was my first experience with the game.
Phil Eklund is like, I don't know what degrees he has, but he's an astrophysicist or chemist.
He's a NASA engineer.
NASA guys, so his games are not going to be very easy to play.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's all based on real and theoretical space travel and rocket science and all that kind of stuff. It is a very deep game. It's I'm looking at the BGG here. It's actually one of the hardest, most complex rated games ever on BGG. Looking here, the weight is like a 4.8 out of 5. So just crazy difficult. But so I just was going to mention, Dan has said he's going to set up another play over at Your Turn sometime in the near future, and we're going to play the streamlined beginning of it, and it should cut it down from about an 8-hour game to probably about a 4 or 5 hour game.
I think I'm in now with that kind of variant. I'm in. You sign me up. Yep. Actually, the November, gentlemen, is the Your Turn convention. So Your Turn convention. I'm bringing this whole gaming table, this whole tabletopper, all the setup, and we're gonna have live streaming all Saturday, 24 hours on Saturday, live streaming.
I've got my tickets.
And you'll have a microphone and a camera, and hopefully Mitch can find another $25 flight to Tampa for a day.
I'm working on it.
So that was my High Frontier, was my big thing. But I think it was a great thing. But my favorite thing was being introduced and teaching, learning Anno 1800 with Robert, and falling in love with that game. I've fallen in love with Anno 1800. It is hotness to me, hotness. But my brain was fried after that.
Sorry, I was just saying, Diego picked it up at the flea market, and you were like, "Yeah, I'm going to read it. There's no rule book." And so you're like, "I'm going to read it on my phone." And I'm like, "I think I'm going to go play some games. You guys can sit here and read a PDF on your phone."
Yeah.
And we did. And that kind of stunk because I think he bought it the day before at the Tom Vassell flea market for like $40, but it came with no rule book.
Yeah.
And now it's on sale on Game Nerds for $42, like Wayne was talking about earlier. Like, it has to be a really good deal. And he loaned it to me, right? So he hands me the game, loans it to me to go learn it. I go to sit down with Rob, and I'm like, there's no rule book in here. He's going to think I lost the rule book. Like, these are the thoughts I'm having in my head. Like, when you borrow something from someone, you want to give it back in pristine condition. And I'm like freaking out. So I said, hey, look, Diego, I'm showing you, it didn't come with a rule book. If you want, I'll be glad to give you the $40 you spent on it, because I know you look a completionist. And I hadn't even played it yet. Hadn't read the rules or nothing. I didn't like the fact that, he spent damn near the cost of the game and not getting what he needs. So he agreed, that he'll find a new copy. And then we played it, and I'm like, oh my God, this game is amazing. So immediately when I got back to Tampa, I printed out the rules and put them in there, printed copy. But that was my Friday. My brain was fried.
Saturday.
So that was my Saturday. My brain was fried. So then we went into all those light games that Robert will probably bring up that he thought he played on Friday.
Robert
Long
wasn't
Shot and
as sold on Anno 1800 as you were.
Yeah, I like it. I was going to just chime in, and again, we talked about this a little bit on the call-in show, but I like Anno 1800. I thought it was good. I'm actually starting now to think about our discussion from earlier with the Ares Expedition. I like Ares Expedition, but when I play Ares Expedition, I really wonder why I'm not playing full Terraforming Mars. And I think playing Anno, even though it is more of a different game, I think, than the other comparison between Terraforming Mars and Ares Expedition, but I get enough taste of it feels enough like Brass that I start wondering, why am I not playing Brass? But anyway, that's my 2 cents.
But and now I've played Anno and I've played Brass. My only difference is, I think, the time difference. I think with a teach, we live played it in an hour and 5 minutes.
Yeah.
You could play, if barring setup and takedown, just play time.
Yeah. Anno's got some setup.
Yeah, for sure.
So does Brass, though.
So does Brass. Yeah.
Brass
So-
has, the setup for Brass is ridiculous.
Anno's the same.
Anno's
I'm sure,
equal.
And
Yeah.
equal.
Mm.
The three of us could play a game of Anno in under an hour, easy, 45
Yeah.
minutes. And so there's enough of a difference there that I think warrants the difference. I'll have
Yeah.
to. I'm gonna get at least a solo play of Ares Expedition in, so I can have some comparison to
Yeah.
talk about more frequently. But I think that really is the big difference, is the time involved.
Yeah, for sure.
It's worth it. Did you ever get to play it, Mitchell? I know you
No.
walked away from us and left us. I offered you a seat, and you're like, bye.
Yeah.
Bye, Felicia.
Listen, I didn't shove burritos into my mouth whole
Oh,
to sit down and read a
that's
rule book.
your loss. That's your loss. Well, I'll jump in here. So speaking of, you mentioned light games, and actually, I don't have a whole lot more because we spent the morning and good chunk of the day there early on with High Frontier. I played Dr. Eureka. Actually, Mitchell. I think Mitchell, you taught us that, right? Yeah.
Yo, I got it at the flea market for $5. I knew my kids would love it, and then we played a couple quick games.
That was a fun little game, and of course, we immediately jumped to ways we could alter that and make it into a drinking game, and we definitely need to do that sometime because I love the idea of having one of the beakers full of alcohol, and if you grab it and actually try to drink it, or you're drinking the balls instead of the beaker. Oh, that's definitely.
I've played that game with my son. I bought it for him. We've also played it as a drinking game as adults later on.
Nice.
We've done both.
That's just an automatic then, I think. So the only two other that I actually have other than Wild Serengeti written down on my Saturday was, again, I had kind of started to spill the beans there that we played a big group games, two of them. One with they both with all the Beans and Dice folks who had showed up at the con. So I think the bigger game we played was Long Shot. No, I'm sorry, backwards. Cartographers was the bigger game. We played Cartographers with, I think, 10 of us at the table. And then a few people headed off to bed because we were in the wee hours at that point. And then we got in a game of Long Shot, which I think we taught that to about half of the people that were there. And I think that went over really well. I had played Long Shot a couple of times at 2-player, and I think I played it once at 3-player. And it was fun, but I really wanted to play it with more people. And if I remember, it caps out at either 7 or 8, it seems like.
I think 8.
Is it 8?
I think it was a max game we played.
I was going to say, I think we played with the max.
And I think that was also whenever you broke out like the alcoholic chocolate too.
Oh, yeah. So that didn't hurt any. But so we're midnight eating little alcoholic chocolates and playing some roll and rights. And I think that was good timing there because we're at Saturday night for most of us, other than Carlos. Most of us had been there already gaming hard for 3-4 days. And so it was about that time that I don't think anybody wanted to get anything heavy going on late on Saturday night. The con wraps up on Sunday. So it was kind of the perfect little fun time. We got all of our folks that showed up and represented the Beans and Dice crew out there, and we got in some good laughs and some good games there. So that was a lot of fun.
I wouldn't quite all the Beans and Dice people. I don't think Michelle and crew were there.
Yeah, there was a couple who didn't, but
maybe not. I don't know if Diego and Rachel were there either.
I think they had already gone to bed.
Yeah, I think that group had already gone off and done something.
Yeah. My Saturday, played some Castles of Burgundy with Jim and Ron. Got to play Brazil Imperial at least a little bit. So the big thing, this was supposed to be the big portal thing at the con. It's an unreleased game, and there was one single copy in Ignacio's bag, and the airline lost his bag.
Lost the luggage.
Yeah. So I was scheduled for a demo, I think the first or second day, and didn't happen. Like the last day of the con, the game shows up. And instead of doing full demos, they're doing like 10-minute demos. I didn't really get a feel for it. I got a little disappointed, so I don't have much to say on it, but I think that they're releasing it at Gen Con right now. Played some Acropolis, an unreleased game from, I don't know, it wasn't memorable. Squid Ink, Downforce, Potion Explosion, Flamme Rouge. Get to plant it in a minute. I want to talk for a minute though about the Table Golf Association.
Oh yeah,
I think I played it that day, but it was a couple days before there was the tournament, which Dan won. He got a hole in one. This game was really cool. So it's not just a dexterity game where you're flicking a golf ball, because if you land, say in the sand, I don't remember the exact thing, but you would have a handicap. Like you have to use your offhand. And you couldn't touch the table. And if you land in the rough, you have to use your pinky. And if you land in this part, you have to use your thumb. So it's like a dexterity game, but there were mechanics to it. And it's like, if you're in the rough, you can only travel 4 spaces, and you roll a die and the wind might blow your ball once it lands. Stuff like that. It was a lot of fun. And I think Dan said he's going to have a tournament at the Your Turn Con, and the guy said he'd sponsor it and he'd give a free copy of the game to.
Yeah, they're going to be there. They're going to be there teaching it. And they're going to give away a free copy to.
Oh wait, the guy's going to go there as well.
Yeah,
the
he's
designer?
traveling to there. Yep, he's going to be there.
Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
Very
after
cool.
Dan made him change the contest that he was running because he got the hole-in-one, so they had to redesign that demo course.
Yeah. Yeah,
It
the
was-
next day they did another little tournament. Yeah, he had to.
It was
he
much more
added some extra
complicated.
tiles and made it a turn and all that. Yep.
Well, yeah. The thing is, he made it to where you couldn't get a hole in one. It was like
Right.
8 spaces, and the most you could ever go was 7 spaces. But that guy and his son, super nice, very personable guys, very down to earth. The other game I want to talk about was Planted. So this is the new Phil Walker Harding game from Target. Initially,
Praise
it was 20.
Yeah, praise
What's
be.
that?
Praise
Oh,
be.
praise be. Originally, it was $20, and it did so well they upped it to $30. I'd
Yeah.
played this before the con for a $20 Target game. Not only are the components awesome, but I thought the gameplay was sweet. We played it. Oh man,
It's good at
Uh,
30 too. I mean, right?
yeah, I agree. Rob, it was you, me, Sam, Nick, and Sam's son. I don't remember her name. His name,
Yep,
I mean.
yep.
We were so delirious and tired. I was like falling asleep at the table. We were playing this game. I was building a super engine. You remember?
This was after cartographers and long shot and all
Yes,
that.
it was.
When
late,
I had already
dude.
gone to bed.
It was like
Yeah.
3 a.m.
Yeah, I was having
You
it on
guys
my
are
Sunday list.
crazy.
Yeah.
It was
Man,
so I had played it before. What were your thoughts on it? You've played it, Wayne?
No, it's on my list. To
Okay,
buy from
yeah.
Target. I'm picking
pulling
it
up Target.com right now.
I didn't love it. I found it overly simple. There was only a handful of different cards, so I just felt there was a lack of variety. It felt like I had the same decisions. Card drafting. You're passing around this group of cards, and you're trying to you're actually kind of even drafting or grabbing these house plants and the different. I'm sure there's a lot of theme in it and a lot of science or whatever in it, but the different house plants, some of them require more sun than others, so you have to draft sun cards to make it grow to get the points. Some of them don't require any sun, but they require some fertilizer or different things, and so you've only got like 4 or 5 different resources that you're drafting as you're passing these cards around. There's a wild resource. Was it a green thumb? I think
Green thumb, but it takes 2 to be
right. Every
wild.
pair of green thumbs, you can turn that into any one other resource, and then you have some tools that allow you to do some things that kind of break some of the rules of the game or allow you to do some unique things. I think I have heard that they are either working on or they've already got in the works coming out an expansion that has some more depth to it that allows you to do some more things, and so maybe I'll like that more. I know it's been popular. I've actually seen it showing up on some lists recently of people's favorite new games, and they're really liking it. But I wasn't blown away by it. I don't know. What did you think?
No, I like Planted. What I think is cool about it, first of all, is you're drafting, yes, but you're not drafting a whole hand. You draft one card and play it, then you pass it and you play it, and so
Yep.
it's developing what you're doing. Another thing I like is so you can either grow the plants you have, or you can like propagate. I think it's called propagation. Just get little leaves. It's simple. You're either getting a resource, you're getting a tool that gives you an extra action, or you're getting a decoration points for the end of the game, or you're just drafting a new plant. It's simple. It's light. It's fun. It's quick. I enjoy it, and it's getting pretty good reviews.
Yeah, people are liking it.
So what I've realized, I really do enjoy Phil Walker Harding games. When I've looked at the games he's designed, and I'm like, oh, I really like that. So there's a big list there, and he has a couple of games coming out of Target. We had Summer Camp like a year ago.
I heard a lot of good stuff about that one.
Summer Camp
That
is
was good.
it's very simple. It's like your complaints, Rob, about Planted. I've heard a lot of people say about Summer Camp. Where
I
it's
like
really
Summer Camp more. I don't
Yeah.
know why, but go ahead. Yeah.
But I think both games, I've played Summer Camp, I own it. And what you said about Planted, they're like a really good introduction game that some family at Target grabs off the shelf and goes, okay, we get it. And now
Right.
you can they're ripe for expansion. Summer Camp could have 1 million expansions. Planted could have expansions that add complexity to the game, for those of us that want more complexity. But I'm Planted. $30, I should just buy it, right? I can go up the road tomorrow to Target and buy it, but I want it for the 20 that you all got it for.
I know.
If we wait,
Yeah.
I mean, like right now,
Yeah,
how
it'll
many
be
times
on
have we
sale.
seen the Target games go on sale for $5, right?
Yeah.
In the clearance aisle. I think I'm going to wait on this one because for that similar price point, I can pick up Cascadia, right? And
this is
get
better
that
than Cascadia.
lightweight. I'm sorry, what?
You heard me. It's better than Cascadia.
Did he say that?
I disagree.
Anyway.
And
we played. Let's continue.
Is he being real though? Was he being facetious?
No, I'm serious. I like it better than Cascadia.
Wow.
I don't like tile laying games though, man.
Yeah, we know this.
Why don't you tell us how you really feel about tile
Yeah.
games? They should really open up and just let us know.
We also played Flamme Rouge that night, but I think Rob mentioned that. But that brings us to Sunday.
Yeah, Sunday morning. I went to bed a little earlier. Like 12 o'clock, I think it was, and y'all stayed up all night.
It was the last night of the con, man.
The baby actually finally started sleeping well. That night because she's been fussy and sick, and I wasn't getting much sleep. And all of a sudden, the lights start flashing in my room.
Makes that noise?
Yes, like you could hear. You can hear like the strobe of a fire alarm. Like you can hear the electricity running through it.
You can feel
and
it.
then like the PA announcer comes on. This is an emergency. This is not a drill. Please evacuate. Like find and I'm like, what is going on? So I grab my glasses and I see my wife and she's looking at me. She's already up. The boys are popped up saying, "Poppy, what do we do?" And I'm just trying to find my glasses because I just finally fell asleep. And then I turn back and look, and my wife's gone. And my kids are gone. And I'm like, but I got to find my wallet. And I got to find my glasses. Like, am I going to die right now? And I got to leave now? Or do I have a moment? Those thoughts were going through my head, but my wife's gone. So I'm like, you know what? Let me just grab my wallet and keys, and we'll go. And I had to chase them down the stairs. She said she saw me looking confused and was not going to risk the kids.
She's gone.
Well, what was great was Rob's kids were outside of Rob's room without Rob and his wife. So my wife says, "You're coming with me," and she takes their kids and like she's leaving me, Rob's wife to die.
She's grabbing all the kids and running. Yeah.
So in the movie Titanic, your wife's on that little raft, and everyone else is freezing their ass off.
Yeah.
Like, bye, Jack. I'm letting go. and we're on the 9th floor, going down the stairs and down the stairwell at I think it was like 6 a.m. or something. It was craziness.
Yeah.
And we get down there, and I'm like, we're the only people out here. Like, nobody else is evacuating that damn building. It's just like me, Rob, and my family. And we get a text from Nick Oben. Hey, he's on our floor. He's like 2 rooms down. Hey, guys, let me know if I'm really going to die and I need to go. And I missed it. I completely missed that text. 20 minutes later, he's like, so I guess I'm not dying. Let me know if that changes. I'm going back to bed. Like,
Well,
all I know, that was my Sunday, and that's how it started. It kind of shook everything up. It made it more difficult because the fire department had to come in, clear everything before we can go back up for the elevators to work again and all that. And it just delayed our checkout. It delayed our packing. And then at that point, I packed everything up with wifey, and we headed out back to Tampa. That was it for me in Dice Tower East. So that was the end of my Dice Tower East. What'd you guys do on Sunday? And,
I know.
Mitch, you were in my building, Mitch.
I didn't hear a thing. There was no fire alarm on my floor. I don't understand. If there's a fire alarm, I don't know why it wouldn't be the whole building.
Yeah, it was only
Y'all
part of the
told me
building.
about it. Y'all told me about it the next day, and I was floored because I had no idea.
Yeah, I never seen that either. That it was only the top. I think the top 4 floors or something. They said so. My wife was guessing that it must have been a short in the system or something that didn't set off the whole building. So it must have just been those floors. Something in the system went wrong.
Well, at least your wife didn't leave you for dead.
No. She waited for me. So, but I was gonna say I made it to bed at 3:30. I think that morning. I had just gotten back to the room, and then what'd you say? The fire alarm went off at like 5 or 5:30. So yeah, I had just barely gotten good to sleep that morning. And I know you were a little irritated. You really wanted to go to get some McDonald's breakfast. You were trying to talk me into it. I was like, dude, I've only slept like an hour and a half. I'm going back to bed. I'm not going to get breakfast. So
you could tell I was irritated, but you stayed and played.
Yeah. So I'm looking at my my list there. So we talked about Planet. That was actually an early morning game. Flamme Rouge was an after midnight early morning game. We did Transmissions.
Again?
After Planted. Rob hadn't played it yet.
Yeah, I had
Oh,
not
he
played.
didn't get to
I'll
play the
play it.
hot
That was
garbage.
right. That was my first play of Transmissions. I think it was Samantha who was there with us. So she,
Nick.
yeah, Nick, yeah, and they wanted to play it, so we went back over and played, and that was my first taste. And so again, that was probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. So that probably didn't help my opinion of the game any. But good thing it was light. I mean, if it was much heavier than what it was, I don't know that I would have made it too far into it at that hour. But looking forward, the only other one that I had really written down was Space Base. We played a big game of Space Base. I forget how many we had in that game. I think that might have been a max player
6
count.
or 7, 8.
I was
don't know
going to
what
say
it
7 or
plays
8
to.
people. Yeah, Space
Yeah.
Base. So that was a little crazy. That took a little while, and took a
Tom
minute
came
to
by
get
and
through.
said, "Too many people."
Yeah. He said we had a whole table full of people playing Space Base, and he's like, "Yeah, that's a big game of Space Base. I don't know if I've ever seen that many people play Space Base, but that was fun. Space Base is always a good time. That's just a little dice chucker, upgrading some cards, playing
It's
the
craps.
probabilities.
It's craps for families.
Yep,
Well, I've never
probabilities.
played with
odds.
that many players, and what was interesting, and it makes sense because you have so many turns. By your turn, you have so much income.
Oh
And
yeah,
so you can buy these really expensive cards, which you really need to because
Oh,
you're getting less
man.
turns.
yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that probably helps accelerate the game because you're buying some of those better cards, you're upgrading some better stuff early on, you're getting to do cooler stuff quicker in the game. So that's probably I would assume that's probably part of the balancing and part of the way the game was made. But yeah, I hadn't thought much about it, but that really did make it a little bit of a different experience. So, but it was long.
Wayne,
with that many
if your
people.
family hasn't played that yet, you're gonna have to borrow my copy. My son, similar age to your boy, loves it. Loves Space Base.
It's a good game.
Yeah.
It's just a lot of fun.
And then just wrapping up my con, when I left, we left. It was the con officially closed. What I want to say it was like 2
I
or
think the
3
library
o'clock.
closed at 2. The con, we had
2.
to evacuate the room by 6, something like that.
Okay, so I think I left around. It was like 3 or 4. My family had gone out and run some errands, and then of course the great thing about being in Orlando is there's so much to do in Orlando. Of course, you got Disney, you've got Universal Studios. We living over in Tampa, we have season passes for probably the last 15, 20 years for Busch Gardens and SeaWorld, and so they were doing a concert over at SeaWorld. A country group, Parmalee, was doing a free concert over there. So my family really wanted to see that, and I'm certainly a fan as well. So I packed up after the con, and we headed over to SeaWorld. We walked around for a couple of hours, saw the animals and stuff, and rode a couple of roller coasters. And then we got to see the concert, and then we packed up and headed back to Tampa. So I was back probably a little after dark, but that was my wrap up of the con, and good experience, of course, overall. Lots of fun.
For me, that morning, I played Mille Fiori with Diego and Rach, a Rainer Knizia game that is not yet released in America. I enjoyed it. It's abstract. I cannot describe it. You just have to watch a video. I literally don't know how to teach.
No
explain
theme,
the
no
game.
nothing.
I don't know. The theme is put things on a board.
How do you say it again?
Mille Fiori. It's
Fiori.
Mille
Yeah.
space Fiori. Interesting game. Carlos, you would hate it. No theme.
It's
at all.
popular. People are liking it.
Yeah. Then we played Space Base. You left out the best part of Space Base, Rob.
Oh, what I
so
forget.
people who volunteered at the con got to pick a copy of either Mandala Stone or Founders of Teotihuacan. Additionally, everybody who came to the con got a copy of Imperial Settlers Roll and Write. We're playing Space Base over very near the Hot Games area, and Z and Mike and Camilla and Tom start bringing in these big pallets full of cardboard boxes.
Yeah.
And we're all looking over at our game. What is that? What's going on? And finally, I was like, Nick, just go ask him what it is. Go ask Mike what it is, because they're opening it up. And he walks up to Mike and he said, hey, what's going on, Mike? And Mike says, everybody who's here can get one game. You can get one of the 3 games. And so Nick just grabbed one and walked away. And so
You
then
can guess what
everybody,
happened after that. Yeah.
everybody at our table was like, okay, we're right next to them. We all go get our game. Then there is a stampede of people that just run over.
Let's see what's going on. Yeah.
They're grabbing
free
piles
games?
of games, and Tom is like, one game per person. Come on, people.
Yeah, he
And
got
Nick
up on a
felt really
table or
bad.
something. Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
Tom was standing up. He's what was he? He's 6'4", I think, to start with, and then he stands up on it was a chair or a table, and he's like yelling at everybody, "One game per person. People are being greedy."
So
What
Nick
were the
felt bad.
games?
He's like, man.
Yeah, what were
Mike
they?
Delis- Sorry, it was those 3 I mentioned. It was
Those
the
3 games.
leftovers.
Yeah.
Mandala
Wow.
Stones, Founders of Teotihuacan, or Imperial Settlers Roll and Write.
Got it.
So Nick's like, man, they weren't ready for that. I started a stampede and I feel bad about it. It's fine, whatever.
You sent him over there.
Yeah, that was fun. And then we played part of a game of Magla Metro, but I didn't want to be the guy turning in a game at a minute till, so we didn't quite finish. And then you guys left. Jim invited me to go eat with his family, but I was very tired. I went to take a nap, and then my flight wasn't until Monday. Mahir Shah actually invited me to go play some games at his place. He lives there, but I was too tired. I pretty much stayed in bed until it was checkout time, and then I had a few hours left until my flight, so I went to watch Thor, and I went to an escape room, and then I flew home. So
how was Thor? Was it worth it?
No. It was one of the worst Marvel movies I've seen.
Oh, damn. So cheesy. Tell me how you really feel.
I haven't been excited.
He's one of my favorites, and it was not good.
Yeah.
No. And then in an escape room because you didn't have enough gaming going on.
Well, I like escape rooms, and it's been a while since
I've never done one before.
Oh, dude, I've done over 100. If you like board games, you'd like escape rooms.
All right, then when we're back together again, we got to find a place nearby us.
There's a bunch in Tampa that we can do.
Oh yeah. I gotta do some too.
My son does a lot of them with his girlfriend. They like that stuff, but somehow I hate board games. I don't get it.
I've done one. Yeah.
So DTE experience, we got to share it with Wayne. He hasn't been with us. He says he is now committed to joining us next year.
I'm there. I'm going next year.
So I'm hoping we gave you an idea, Wayne, of the experience that we lived at DTE, and I think it'll be better next year, especially looking at Gen Con and how big it's getting. I think we'll be back to normal numbers and more.
I don't think that Dice Tower East is going to grow very much as far as numbers. I think it's going to be similar in size.
That's what Tom said. Yeah, his big event every year is going to be Dice Tower West out in Vegas. He said Vegas is bigger, and that's he's going to blow that one up, and he's not planning on having this one go above. I've heard different things. This one was how many people? Was it 2,400 or something?
No, he said 1,700 on one of his videos.
Yeah, it was less than 2,000.
Okay, so 1,700.
My guess is it grows to be 2,000 to 2,500.
Yeah, so it's not going to be back to the 3,600 days. I
heard at one point that he was going to cap it at 4,000, but then somebody else told me that they actually heard him saying at the con that he was going to keep it around 2,000 people. I think was as big.
3,600 was a good number. We had the whole place to ourselves. This time we had to share it with dancers and other events
Rob's
going on.
Long-lost daughter.
Oh yeah, the children's daughter.
There's a big sign that said someone Childers.
Yeah, it was the same last name. The princess or the queen of the dance group. Yeah.
And now Mitch is fully fledged Dice Tower because he's done Retreat.
Oh yeah.
And Mitchell's done East, so he's achievement unlocked.
We need to do West.
I never have to go back.
Yeah.
Now we got to hit Vegas.
We got to hit Vegas.
Yeah, let's do Vegas together one year.
And the cruise, we got to hit
cruise.
I don't like boats.
More planes.
So that's our experience from Dice Tower East. We want to thank you all for sticking around. And, what I love about the podcast format, it lets us go long. It lets us talk and really just share with y'all our feelings and experiences on gaming that the call-in show doesn't. But if you like to hear from other people like you, call in Thursday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. We take phone calls from 9 to 10 on Thursday nights from gamers like you to talk about what your game life is like, and you can share your experiences. So on that note, we are the Beans and Dice podcast. With me today, thank you, Rob, for joining me. Thank you, Mitchell, for sticking around. Wayne, you hung out and listened and shared experiences with us, even though you weren't there with us. So I want to thank you. I'm Carlos. We are the Beans and Dice podcast, a podcast about
how we
game. Thanks for listening. We will catch y'all on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for watching the Beans and Dice podcast. Don't forget to like and subscribe.